Hi there. In this video, I'm going to be comparing the Teenage Engineering OPXY and the Dirtywave AM8 from an actual user's perspective, beyond the spec sheet, after having used both of them extensively. If you haven't been following my channel lately, I bought the XY about a month ago with no discounts so I could compare it to the competition and ultimately try to give it an honest review with hopefully no bias or no shades of shilling. This video is by no means meant to be the final word on this comparison, but rather I hope it's a conversation starter for a hearty debate in the comment section below. Also, these two devices are deep, so if I left out your favorite feature, please feel free to say so in the comments. Here we go. Price and availability. I thought I'd start by addressing the huge elephant in the room, which is obviously price. The XY is infamously expensive, coming in at a hefty $2,299 versus the Dirtywave AM8's more accessible $599. However, and please hold your pitchforks until the end of the video, there are a few reasons why the XY is so much more costly. Aside from having double CPUs, a more complex and decked out button layout, and some pretty powerful performance features that the M8 doesn't have, just from a graphic design standpoint, the XY clearly had a lot more time and money thrown at developing the art and style that pops out of the screen compared to the M8. Now, this is by no means a dig at the M8, mind you. The retro tracker, artistic vision, and graphics of the M8 are beautiful in their own right, and they are also highly customizable, something that even the XY doesn't offer. As for availability, though Teenage Engineering's pricing is aggressive, to put it nicely, they mostly have stock readily available directly from them or other authorized distributors. The M8, though much more conveniently priced, has historically been very difficult to buy directly from the manufacturer, and it has no distributors, giving way to exorbitant prices on the secondhand market. Portability, build quality, and battery life. These two machines are easily in the top 5 portable music workstations currently available on the market. They are both incredibly well crafted, feel sturdy and solid in your hands, and are just plain beautiful to look at. Nothing feels wobbly or out of place. The metal enclosures on both of them give a weight that oozes quality, and the keys are both clicky and responsive. The screens on both devices are crisp and fast, with a resolution that looks premium from anywhere you look at it. For short-sighted musicians such as myself, the M8 might have the edge regarding screen and font size, especially since it offers options to make the fonts larger and even allows for you to connect to a bigger screen via USB. That being said, though some of the XY's fonts are smaller, the contrast and brightness of the screens are so good that I've never really struggled to read a word on it. When it comes to battery life, on paper at least, the XY has the advantage with 16 hours versus the M8's 12-hour duration. In practical use though, both of these devices seem to live forever, and I've never had to worry about the battery dying on me during a session unless I started out with an extremely low battery life on either of them. I do have to say though that the XY impressed me the other day when I did a 2-hour session with it powering up my Arturia Keylab for more than 2 hours, and I still had juice in the tank when I was done. As far as portability goes, these two are about as little as you can get without sacrificing ergonomics or workflow. They both weigh little enough as to not be noticeable in a backpack, and they're the type of Groovebox that you take with you just in case, versus something like the MPC Live 2 or the Push 3, which you will absolutely not take with you unless you're certain that you're going to do something with them at some point. Something that's pretty remarkable about the M8 is that you can actually make music with it while standing up, like on a subway ride for example, thanks to its Game Boy-like disposition and the way that you hold it. The XY, though compact, still requires you to place it somewhere like a table or your lap even, to be stable and comfortable enough to use it. Internal synths and sampling. I want to be really clear about both of these machines. The quality of the sounds that comes out of these two, whether it be the internal synths or samples and effects, is absolutely stunning. The synths themselves offer different flavors and palettes, but are in general pretty flexible and cover a lot of ground thanks to the different available engines. The M8 synths are all monophonic except for the hypersynth, which allows you to program chords, and a standout among the engines is the macro synth, which is the mutable instruments braids algorithm. Each synth on the M8 has multiple main parameters that you can tweak along with 4 assignable modifiers, which can be anything from envelopes to LFOs, which makes them pretty deep for sound design. Each synth can also be sent to any of the 3 global effects, which are reverb, delay, and chorus. OPXY has multiple synth engines as well, but unlike the M8, they can be polyphonic. It's important to note, however, that the XY has a 24-voice polyphony limit though. I've gotta say, I've been pleasantly surprised by the sounds I get from the synth engines themselves, And even though the XY is not meant to be a sound design powerhouse, they all offer a few parameters to tweak, a dedicated amp and filter envelope, and a variable LFO. A big advantage I feel the XY has over the M8 is the carefully curated set of presets, which in general are pretty excellent places to get you started making music, and with a few little tweaks here and there, you can get to some pretty amazing results. The XY synths also have a feature that I wish every single synth in Groovebox had, and hopefully it'll be the standard someday, and that is patch randomization. Basically, you press a combo and it'll mix up all the parameters in a synth to generate a new patch. It's a great tool to inspire creativity when you're blocked, and a great way to test out some of the more extreme capabilities of the XY's onboard synths. In the sampling department, both instruments have some pretty heavy capabilities. The M8 allows for disk streaming of audio files, so you don't really have a sample limit, so to speak, as you do in the XY. This means that, just like in Big Daddy Octatrack, you can stream long pieces of music as backing tracks or textures without worrying about audio cutting off or the RAM running out. You also get sample chopping and slice playback modes. On both machines, you get pitch shifting, but no real time stretching or warping capabilities. The XY, though limited to 20 seconds of stereo sampling, has 3 different sampling engines. The multi-sampler allows for you to multi-sample an instrument, creating a virtual copy of another synth, something that I've always loved on the Deluge, the Push, and my MPC. The sampler engine takes one sample and pitch shifts it up and down the keyboard, and the drum engine allows for allocating different individual samples to different keys. This last sampler engine makes the XY extremely powerful when combined with the capabilities of the next topic, sequencers and workflow. Both of these machines offer incredibly inspired and intricate ways of sequencing music in a way that makes them truly special. The sequencer on the M8 is a classic tracker-style sequencer with a few twists, while the XY sequencer seemed to have combined the greatest hits of Elektronboxes, Deluge, and even Oxy 1 sequencers into one. Both machines, at their core, offer 8 tracks that can be either synths or samplers. Each of these tracks have patterns that contain sequences of multiples of 16. In XY's case, you can first extend those 16 steps by 4 bars, giving you 64 steps. You further extend the pattern by adjusting the scale multiplier for a total of 1024 steps. It is important to note, however, that even at that highest resolution, the maximum number of actual notes in a pattern is 120. Each track can have up to 9 patterns, and each pattern can be a different patch or synth engine. Furthermore, the patterns of each track combined make up a scene, and you can have up to 99 scenes per song. Also, you have a song mode where you can change scenes however you like, making the arranger on the XY one of the most fluid and flexible ones I've used so far. It sounds a bit complicated, but I'm amazed at how easy it is in practice to make entire songs with evolving and ever-changing patterns and sections, while also being completely manageable thanks to the visual cues that you get. And it's probably one of the XY's most powerful and yet underrated features, if I'm being honest. In the M8's case, the sequencing is a bit more linear, so to speak, but not at all less flexible. On the main page, the tracks are organized into rows, 256 of them to be exact. Each one of these rows on each individual track will play a chain. Each chain consists up to 16 patterns, and each pattern consists of up to 16 steps. So yeah, that's a lot of notes and variations. What I find amazing about the M8 is that the tracks are not fixed in stone. You can set up a step or pattern or chain anywhere you want in that matrix, so each step can be a different instrument if you want, or any track can play any pattern. The only thing linear about it is that the playback is fixed from top to bottom, though you can trigger chains out of order individually when in live mode. Both sequencers allow for parameter locking and modifications of each step in their sequences, also called effects. The M8 allows for up to 3 of these locks, and what I think is its main advantage is that each step can be any instrument you want. The XY, while being restricted to the synth or the sampler engine of that pattern, has many more parameter locks, or as they call them, step components available, making it much more powerful for generative music and being able to achieve huge variations in as little as just one 16-step bar. Also, by being polyphonic, you don't have to economize and think it through as much in the note distribution per track, while on the M8, being monophonic, unless using a drum loop sample, it can get pretty crowded pretty fast. But don't count the M8 out just yet. The M8 has a final sequencer trick up its sleeve, which are the tables. In a nutshell, it's like a whole other layer of sequencing beneath the main pattern, which allows for all manner of shenanigans from complex arpeggios to polyrhythms and so on and so forth. This affords the M8 a surgical level of detail in its sequencing. On the other hand, the XY offers a whole other toolset of sequencing capabilities and live performance capabilities that make it truly stand out among the crowd. Aside from the previously mentioned step components, the XY has punch-in effects and a brain function. The brain has truly become one of my favorite features for composition, and it's basically a smart transposer, if you will. It detects the musical key of your tracks, and when you hit different keys, it will transpose the music in real time, but it maintains the harmonic relationship between the musical elements. In short, things still sound great when transposed, and it has led to some amazing OMG moments while playing around with my tracks. If the XY has a killer feature, the brain is it. Besides the brain, the XY also has punch-in effects, both global and per track, which makes it great for setting down some music and just experimenting and improvising, much like the beloved SP404. As for mixing and mastering, or finishing a track if you will, here both machines diverge immensely. The M8 offers a channel mixer, a limiter, and a DJ style filter. The thing is, on the M8, you can easily continue working on your music in a DAW, since you can render and export either individual track stems or the finished mix into audio for further processing. On the XY, you get way more finishing tools: the mixer, compressor, 3-band EQ, and saturator. And credit where credit is due, my tracks sound amazing out of the XY when I apply all of them. And thankfully too, because the biggest missing feature on the XY is precisely that, wait for it, there is no rendering or export function as of the time of this recording. The only way you're getting your audio out is by recording it in old school into your DAW, either track by track or just the whole mix. This is one of the few things where I agree with the expression, for that price, yeah, it really should have an export function. After all of that, I want to share who I think the M8 and the XY are for. For me, these two machines, which I sincerely love, offer completely different experiences. The M8 is a more methodical, more cerebral way of making music. I often think of making music on the M8 as riding a roller coaster. Getting started takes a while. It's slow and a bit harder than other Grooveboxes. Just the fact that you have to program in each note since there's no real keyboard should give you an idea of how those first tenuous steps are. But once you get going and you get beyond that apex, this thing turns into a wild ride. Ideas start flowing and you mix around chains and patterns and magic just starts happening in real time. It's a beautiful thing. That being said, I've often thought of the M8 as an amazing place to make intricate patterns and sequences that I'll later export and play with other instruments such as the Octatrack. And that's mainly because once you have made your compositions, there's really not that much you can do in a live performance, or live performance tricks if you will, that you can do on the M8 except for maybe launch patterns. On the other hand, the XY seems to have been made with improvisation and performance in mind. The fluidity and the speed at which ideas appear and develop on the XY is something that is truly staggering. It's one of the few devices that I know I can make something worth listening to in a matter of minutes. Not only that, I can actually do something with that music later on thanks to all the included performance features like the punch-in effects and the brain. So after all of that, you tell me, who do you think won this round? I'd love to keep the conversation going down below, and I hope to meet you down in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video useful, or at least entertaining. Have a great week. See you next time.